everyone. It's May 22nd, 2013. I'm Rene Ritchie, and this right here is the all-new iMore show. Hit it. First of all, we have iMore's brand new Mac and gaming editor. You might also know him from fine establishments such as The Loop and also the Angry Mac Bastards. How are you, Peter?
Fine, thank you, Rene.
I am angry. I have a Mac, but as far as I know, my parents were legally married, so I'm not sure if I can podcast with you.
Well, anytime you want to come on the show, you're welcome to, but just remember that we work blue, so... You know, dirty language galore.
Yeah, so I've read Samuel Jackson's Go the F*** to Sleep, so I'm pretty sure I can handle that.
That's good. Yeah, we featured that one week, actually.
All right, awesome. Also joining us, previously of WebOS Nation, but since HP murdered it just to watch it die, he is now an editor-in-chief at large. He's like a Ronin. He is wandering the mobile landscape. He is Derek Kessler. How are you, Derek?
I'm doing fantastic. How's everybody doing?
You're kind of dark. You have like a window behind you or a portal to a starship. I'm not sure. Also joining us, one of my absolute favorite developers who makes some of my absolute favorite apps. No coincidence there. Michael Simmons from Flexibits. How are you, Michael?
Doing great, Rene. Thanks for having me on. I'm honored.
I used Fantasyland to schedule this very episode.
How meta of you.
Well, you know, I have a love-hate relationship with you because Fantasyland is the first calendar app that is so good I actually use it, and now I have things to do.
I think I mentioned I said this to you at Macworld, but if you're productive and you hate me, I'm happy to take on that burden.
Oh, very nice. So let's just jump right into it. This is the all-new iMore show, and I want to just give a little bit of an explanation about that. Mobile Nations, we're really built on communities. We started with Visor Central, Trio Central, and these were all giant community sites. We have monstrously large, super engaged forums, and most of our shows, like the Crackberry podcast, the Android Central podcast, they're big panel shows. They have a lot of audience feedback. They talk to the chat room quite a lot, and yes, we have a live chat room with us, and there's a ton of people in there. And if you're in the chat room right now, tell me where you're from, because I see people from Montreal, from England, from California, all sorts of places. So don't hesitate to shout out. But we wanted to switch it up and do a more Mobile Nations style podcast. And I'm really excited about that, especially because, Peter, I know you have done panel podcasts for a while.
Yeah, indeed.
Is there anything you like better about them than just a guy yelling at a microphone?
Well, you know, I think that it's nice to have a roundtable discussion about topics of interest. So from that perspective, I think they're great. The downside is, you know, we're doing video, which means that I have to, you know, wear a shirt at least.
Yeah, pants are optional. Not really, but we like to pretend. All right, so on with the news. I have talked enough about... Oh, we've got people from Rochester, New York, Berkeley, California, Houston, Chicago, Cleveland. There's a hellmouth in Cleveland. Be very, very careful. Houston, Texas. Awesome. All right, so to start things off, Michael insisted that we talk about Apple and their current tax situation. Just to quickly recap that, basically, Apple is one of the largest taxpayers in the U.S. Apple says they account for $1 out of every $40 of income that the U.S. government counts in their giant Scrooge McDuck tax coffers. But the U.S. Senate begs to differ. They say Apple has $102 billion offshore, and they would like at least, I think, 35% of that money. Why is that so fascinating to you, Michael?
First of all, this is like those TV shows where you can tell like they do a questionnaire before the show, and they're like, what are your biggest fears? What are the things that absolutely drive you nuts? So we won't do those. And then they tell them that, and then...
It was the first thing you mentioned.
It was the first thing. All right, fair enough. All right, so the whole tax thing just bugs me that Apple is, at least right now, the most successful company, right? One of the facts that keeps coming out from all the news, even Apple themselves, even the government themselves, is that Apple paid the most amount in taxes. They had the highest payment of taxes. I believe that is an accurate
statement. They paid for like Wyoming.
Yeah, so they paid insanely high amounts of money. So the whole argument here is basically, but you didn't pay us even more money. And there's a tinge of greed here. And like, it's hard to, I realized yesterday I started a lot of controversy. So here's the hard part. I love Apple. I'm a developer for Apple. I'm an Apple stockholder, everything pro Apple. So it kind of feels like maybe I'm just doing a fanboy thing. But if I could like have you pretend for a second that I don't care about Apple, it's complete BS that they've paid all this money in taxes and now they're on trial to pay even more money because there are laws and loopholes and strategies and maneuvers and all of these things that are written by the lawmakers to avoid taxes. You know, all of these lawmakers that are questioning Apple, are they doing these things? Do they have money set up in other companies that are in other countries with more favorable tax rates? I'm sure the answer is yes. I mean, we saw during the presidential election things like Mitt Romney and having his money offshore. This is a strategy that's done by people who have a lot of money. And just so you know, it costs Apple a ton of money to have these strategies. But the game here is that they make even more money by doing this. And the government knows this, and the government wrote these laws. And I think it's just really incredible that a company like Apple that's trying to move manufacturing back to the US, that's trying to create jobs in the US, that is creating jobs in the US and contributing to our economy, is on trial for something that thousands, probably hundreds of thousands of other companies are doing. And, you know, maybe it is my Apple passion speaking, but I would, even if this was Microsoft, I'd be saying the same thing.
They're just the big name. But yeah, and this is congressmen, senators sitting up there saying, why is this happening? Well, it's laws that you wrote. How do we fix it? You fix it? It's, you know, it's just like, you know, myself. I think everybody can agree the tax code needs to be simpler. There are these loopholes and everything. Yeah.
Years and years and years and years and years and years and years of modifications without actually making major changes for the society and the time that we live in, right? It's like old stuff that's just been
omissions in the tax code. And you know what? We do the same thing. When I file my taxes in
when Derek goes to H&R Block with $8 in his pocket,
every thing I can to save some money, because I'd be stupid if I didn't. Apple's not a stupid company.
Apple's just actually playing by the rules that are set forth by the government. And that's what I think bothers me, is when you see the senators asking them these questions. It's like, hey, why are you following the law, Apple? Why are you doing what's actually legally in the tax code to do, Apple?
You're making us look bad, Apple.
Well, what is it that they say
Pretty
about
much.
Foxconn? That lots of companies work with Foxconn besides Apple, but Foxconn's shit sticks to Apple. You know, and it's the same sort of story, because Apple is, you know, this enormously wealthy and enormously successful company. Apple gets called up to answer these questions about taxes. Even what Apple is doing is fundamentally no different than what any other major multinational corporation that is based in the United States is doing.
Apple has been a company that people like to hate. Even when they were down, people like to hate them. And now, especially that they're on top, people hate them even more. And I find it so incredible. I almost wonder, like, if a study could be done about why do people hate Apple so much? I think the answer is because they're different. They're not part of the norm. They're not part of the status quo, right? Which is probably why we love them. But my point is that it's very interesting that now that Apple is on top and contributing to society by paying a ton of taxes. I wish I had the exact number. I wonder if anyone on the panel has it, but it was like insanely high numbers. You know, why is Apple under attack for, again, following the laws that are in place?
It's probably just because, like you said, Apple is a huge target. I mean, they benefit from their size and from their brand awareness and from the fact that we love them by getting a lot of great headlines, but then they also get the lion's share of attention when things go wrong. So if you look at Apple like a giant magnaphone or magnifying glass, everything they do comes under increased scrutiny just because everyone wants to get their name attached to them so they get headlines.
Yeah, and right now, you know, these are the politicians going after Apple. The United States government has a lot of problems that they need to get sorted, and this is an easy way for them to distract from that and make it look like they're actually trying to accomplish something, and really all they're doing is grandstand.
I have a question for our chat room. Chat room, what do you think? Is Apple paying enough taxes, or should they be paying more? Everyone sort of has a different idea of what is fair, and sort of big companies have so much money, you kind of think that they can spare all of it to the government. But I'd like to know what you guys think. While they're weighing in, I'm going to transition us to Peter's excellent editorial today on the Xbox One, which might just be a lot of Apple TV wishers' dreams coming from the wrong place.
Yeah, it's really interesting. There's been a huge amount of speculation for years now from Gene Munster and others about this mythical Apple TV, this unicorn that Apple is working on that is going to reshape the home entertainment experience in the living room as we know it. And it was really interesting watching the keynote for Xbox One yesterday, because it seems like a lot of the technology that Microsoft was showing off is stuff that people like Munster and others have prognosticated that Apple is working on. I'm talking specifically about voice activation. Now, that's something that's actually in the Kinect system with Xbox 360 now, just on a much more limited basis. But basically being able to talk to and gesture at your Xbox One and have all sorts of wonderful things happen, sort of Minority Report style. From turning on the TV and operating, all the different components of your home entertainment system to overlaying content from live TV from the Xbox or from the web, through the Xbox using IE and Bing and, whatever else Microsoft wants to throw at you. Plus, it's a really cool gaming system, and it can play music, and it can do all these other things. And then Microsoft announced that it's also doing, original content development for Xbox. I'm not talking about Xbox Live. I'm not talking about games. I'm talking about live action shows, including one based on Halo that Steven Spielberg is producing. So Microsoft really wants the Xbox One to become sort of the center of the home entertainment system in your house. It's an ambitious idea, and whether or not they can pull it off, I guess, remains to be seen. But what really struck me was that many of these bits and pieces are stuff that they said that Apple was going to produce in its television, and I'm not convinced that Apple is going to do
I love that
Apple
thing,
television at all.
that gesture where you could just grab it and kind of close it with your two Hulk hands.
Exactly.
Does that stuff work? I mean, Michael, you're an amazing UI guy. Does that kind of stuff work? Do gestures translate to 10-foot experiences?
So I'll tell you actually a funny thing about this whole TV revolution. When I started out of college, the big thing that I worked on was television stuff. I worked at a company on the East Coast called Cablevision, and I was working in their emerging technology department on video on demand and other technologies, like back in the 90s, mid to late 90s, before this stuff had been released. So television is actually something that I have a lot of experience in, and I find it really fascinating. And we ran a lot of user experience and usability testing. And the thing that I found, and I believe this to be true, and I think all of you will agree because you'll see this in your own lives and friends and family, is television is a very passive thing. You watch TV, you watch movies. You don't want to interact. You don't want to think. You don't really remember all these things you'd see where they'd have like these DVDs or things with interactive things.
Yeah, I'm way too lazy for those.
Yeah, people want to watch. They want to be passive and chill back and kick back and just watch their movie. And the thing is all of these devices, or at least other companies and things, gimmicks, I call them, like even the 3D glasses, people just want to watch content. And that's where Apple's getting it right. And someone in the chat room had made a comment. I was kind of holding it off to bring it up, where they said, I don't remember what they were saying in response to Peter, but they were saying that Apple would never put a Blu-ray player, and they never would put a Blu-ray
It's a bag of hurt
in their Apple TV. Well, Blu-ray is dead. Microsoft put Blu-ray in because it's probably something that they can list as a feature, or people go, oh, cool, I can get rid of my Blu-ray player and buy this. And sure, there's a market for that. But Blu-ray's dead. People want to get their content over the
here's my
internet
only problem. When I get iTunes stuff, I'm okay with the lower bitrate. I'm okay with the lower quality. But they never have all the director's commentary and the special features and the extended and deleted scenes. And I'm a huge nerd for those things. So I still have to buy those damn Blu-rays, those bits of plastic.
That's true, but
Whatever
that's a
happened to
specific
iTunes LP?
market, and then you will buy a Blu-ray player. You will buy an Xbox, right? There'll always be there'll be an option for you. But Apple does things more on a mass market. What's the best, easiest, simplest solution?
That's true. Derek, you were insulting me. I'm sorry.
Whatever happened to iTunes LP?
iTunes LP and iTunes Extra. iTunes Extra is kind of still limping around. I get it on some things, but and Peter, maybe you've experienced this too. You buy the thing on the Apple TV, and for me, that's the best iTunes experience because I don't have to download it. It just streams. And then what happens is, like, I bought The Dark Knight, the animated version of Frank Miller's Dark Knight, and it just streams. And then I went back to my computer and I saw it was trying to download extra features. So it does, in some cases, have them, in some cases not. But even when it does, you have to go to the Mac to watch them, which is not what I want.
Yeah.
And one thing about Blu-rays. Sorry. I want to throw one more thing in just about Blu-rays really quick. I definitely think there's a market for Blu-rays. What I mean by Blu-ray is dead is Apple's not going to put it in their product because it's not a mass market product anymore. I'd call Blu-ray niche. It serves a purpose. And like Rene was saying, director's cuts and things. I have a ton of discs. I'm not saying that it's not.
You're saying
good.
80-20 rule.
I'm just saying. I'm maybe saying even 95-5 rule in this case.
Michael, Michael, I have stats year over year, quarter after quarter. Blu-ray sales increase, and Blu-ray sales are outpacing the growth of DVDs, for example. Now, DVDs are a dying format for movies, but Blu-ray, there's plenty of growth left in it. People are transitioning to big screen TVs. They want to be able to keep up with. They want the rest of their entertainment process to keep up with that as well. Plus, in Microsoft's case, look, the PS4 has a Blu-ray player. Microsoft has invested in making this happen. They backed the wrong horse before when it came to
I had one
HD
of those.
Format.
I had the HD DVD. I'm so embarrassed.
Oh God, that sucks. I'm ashamed of you, Rene. Ashamed.
Yeah, how did you get that wrong?
I just wanted all the discs. I think for one of them, Universal or Paramount or somebody had an exclusive deal with Microsoft, and I wanted those discs.
Peter, I hear what you're saying about Blu-ray, and I'll look at the stats. I admit I don't know the stats or anything, but what I believe is that people want less things. I think the iPhone success has proved this. I think the iPod success proved this. People don't want physical things. They want to have this one device that has everything in one device. And sure, you can rip a Blu-ray to a computer or sure, whatever. But I believe that physical media, maybe it isn't happening now. Maybe there's growth because of the fact that there's not options. But I do believe it's going to be dying.
Internet access is a real thing in the United States, and as long as not everybody has a huge pipe to the internet, I think that there's still going to be a place for physical media like Blu-ray, and I think that not everybody is ready to make that leap where they are streaming or downloading content exclusively from the internet. But it's clear that that's the trend because Samsung's got its smart TVs, and Netflix is ubiquitous. So you can get Netflix on my toaster, for God's sake.
We might also need discs for 4K because I looked at CES. They were showing streaming Netflix 4K, and it was a disaster. I think you saw that too, right, Derek?
Yeah, the benefits of physical media will always be able to outweigh our bandwidth. Unless we get to the point where we have streaming gigabit to everybody's house, and it's affordable.
And Samsung's testing it right now.
Right, and Samsung's testing that, but that's coming 2020,
yes.
And that's theoretically a gigabyte when you've got two receivers in the same room.
Sure, but it's still technology. When you look at Apple building their data centers and you look at what's happening, I'm just saying the future is the cloud. The future is having things stored somewhere else and being able to get them on demand. When I was working on the VOD stuff back in the 90s, the holy grail of everything is to have everything on demand and not have to go to a store and buy a disc or wait for it to come in the mail. That's I think the simplest way of getting it.
So I'm going to ask the chat room. Chat room, do you use, and I'm sorry, I missed most of your tax things, but most of you were in favor of you not paying taxes and Apple paying all the taxes. I'm going to note that for future reference. Do you use, I've gone almost all in on iTunes, and now I've gone back and bought some Blu-rays. So let me know, do you use Blu-rays? Do you use DVDs? Which is the best solution for you? And Peter, I'm curious, is there an opportunity for Apple now in what Microsoft presented? Because this is sort of the pocket knife, the Swiss Army knife of set-top boxes, and we know Apple won't do that. So are there some areas that you think Apple could still be really successful in the set-top market?
Well, for sure. I mean, I don't think that Apple's philosophy is fundamentally the same as what Microsoft is doing, with the Xbox One. The Apple TV is is not there to dominate the living room. It's there to give people who have invested in Apple products a way of getting their content, or for that matter, Apple content, through iTunes, a way of getting that content into their home entertainment system. But there's no question that the home entertainment experience is lacking right now. And, the thing that interests me the most about the Xbox One isn't necessarily the bells and whistles of Kinect and the hardware and the new games that are being promised. It's the pass-through HDMI connector. And the IR ports on the back for IR blasters all over your living room to be able to control other devices. If Apple were to do something like that with the Apple TV, make the Apple TV a pass-through device that controls your entire entertainment center, that would be a no-brainer.
Yeah.
You know who else has done that?
Don't say it.
Google.
But they put a 300-button
has
remote
done
on
that?
it.
Microsoft had devices like this. Does everyone remember when they had the Windows TV and they had these living room
and
experiences?
Web TV.
Yeah, that was one of the things that I was actually doing tests on, is that you had this big computer that had all these IR things running to devices, and then it would control everything, and it lasted for maybe that was ahead of the curve. I'll even give Microsoft that. Maybe it was ahead of the curve. Peter, I agree. That would be the ultimate. But I don't think Apple looks at controlling other devices.
It's HDMI 1.3 has it built into the spec where it can control back through the cable.
That's what Microsoft's doing, I think.
No, Microsoft uses IR blasters.
Oh, well, they both, don't they? They have the HDMI control for devices that support it, and the IR blasters as backup.
The problem is, so many of our devices don't support that.
My Samsung
I know
phone
for
does.
a fact my cable box doesn't support that.
Our chat room, by the way, has answered, and the geekier their avatar, the more likely they are to buy Blu-rays, resulting in the penultimate Richard Devine in full racing fatigue is a Blu-ray aficionado, and a lot of some Redbox, a lot of Netflix. Netflix seems to still have a high attraction rate.
Rock Solid in our chat room says that he thinks that Apple TV is still Apple strategy, not an Apple television. And I have to agree with that. I don't think that Apple is going to make a television. It just doesn't make any sense. The economics of it, TVs are a commodity-driven market, and there's no way for Apple to compete there on any sensible level.
I would like Apple to just make a piece of glass with an Apple logo stenciled on it so that Gene Munster does not have to talk at another earnings call ever again.
Sock Rollin. I'm sorry. It's Sock Rollin.
It's his. Look, he messed with the stereotype. It's his fault.
Hey, but at least he has an avatar that's a replica of an Eastern Island Mike.
That's fantastic. Well, I think that's actually him. I have met him on several occasions, and that might be a photograph.
He looks like the actual Tiki.
Yes, except he has a baseball hat.
Oh, excellent.
So I'm going to transition us a little bit here, Michael, because I want to make sure we save enough time for you. You make several delightful apps. I first got to know you for Fantastical on the Mac, and then you brought it to the iPhone. But it turns out that you're some sort of maniacal interface genius that has got his fingers on a bunch of apps in the ecosystem, and I'm hoping you can tell us about your favorites.
So yeah, when I started my own gig back in, I think it was, we launched Fantastical in 2011, but I started Flexibits in 2010. When I went off on my own, I had a few friends and people that I knew wanted me to work with them. So Flexibits is definitely my core. It's my baby. But another company that I'm involved in is a developer tool you might have heard of called Hockey App. I believe you, Rene, use it.
I love Hockey Apps. Right? Luke Von Dahl introduced me to it. It was the fastest. Up until then, I'd been moving applications back and forth. It was the only reason I still tethered my iPhone was to load those stupid beta files. And then Luke shot me a Hockey App, and I downloaded over the air, and I was living in the future. I was so happy I refused to go backwards.
Yeah, it's such a great product. And as a developer, we use it at Flexibits to distribute our apps. So it's really nice. All of the founders of Hockey App are all developers. It's a secondary job for us. And we create it as a tool for our own stuff. So if you're a developer or a tester, I guess it really helps the whole testing experience. It's really nice.
John Blandy in the chat room is saying it's laughably fun in a good way.
That's awesome. Glad to hear. And I see also in the chat room, thank you for all the great compliments on Fantastical. It means a lot to me. I had told Rene, and I always say this, the reason why I make apps is to make people's lives better. And as silly as it seems, I think the computer is a tool that you're supposed to make people's lives better with. Otherwise, do it with pen and
Now,
paper.
you don't have to confirm this because I understand it's a sensitive topic, but my understanding was that Steve Jobs never kept his own calendar, so he really didn't care what iCal calendar worked like. And that sort of gave you an opportunity to come in and reverse Sherlock Apple and make a better version of a product that Apple was already offering for free.
Yeah, I've heard that. I mean, there's a lot of actual rumors and stories about how Calendar and why they acquired it, or because it was an acquired product. It was something that I think Apple just needed to have a calendar app. But part of me sort of wishes that if Steve were still alive, that he would have loved Fantastic Calendar.
I don't know. It doesn't have enough stitched leather, Michael. It just really does not have enough stitched leather.
Oh, sheesh. Well, maybe if he were still alive, I would have
A special edition. You would have hockeyed him a special edition leather stitched version of.
Exactly. Special Steve Jobs edition of Fantastic.
What other apps that you don't make are some of your favorites?
So apps that I don't make that are my favorites that I tend to use on a daily basis. I mean, obviously I'm on Twitter, so I use Tweetbot a lot. I really love Tweetbot. It just works. The best apps to me are apps that just work, and that's kind of the bar that I set for myself when I'm doing Flexibits stuff or with Hockey App or any of the other projects that I'm involved in. I think the apps that just work are the best. Obviously, I use a lot of the system apps. I definitely use Mail to do my mail. I use iChat, Messages. Speaking of which, I could maybe do a little tiny small teaser.
You have a
here
teaser
on the show about? Yeah, I could do one. Mm-hmm. So it's really small though, but we're working on a new app that's going to be. We're going to actually do the official tease probably in a few more weeks. And for anyone who uses Messages or iChat, I think you'll be pretty excited.
That's all you're going to say?
That's all you get.
Is it Fantastic Message?
It's fantastic.
Fantastic chat. That natural language chat. It'll turn you from a texter into a normal human speech pattern again.
Actually, you just type messages and then they just get sent as the messages you intended.
Nice. No more. It's perfect for drunk people who are used to using interspeak. Fantastic.
Yeah, but basically, the tease will be coming in the next couple of weeks, so keep your eyes out. If you guys are interested or anyone uses iChat or Messages, hopefully you'll find a good use for the tool. We created the tool just like with Fantastic. It was something we needed that was sorely missing, and I personally love it. But I wrote it.
I think Peter and I are going to hunt you down at WWDC and demand a preview.
Absolutely.
Okay, well, I guess I'm going to give you one.
Nice. Oh, that was easier than I thought. Peter, you can put away the clubs.
Well, Peter's very. I'm afraid of Peter.
He's I'm not at all disturbed by that. That's fantastic.
Okay, good.
Peter, so we haven't had you on the show before because you are, with us brand new. What kind of apps do you like? What are your favorites right now?
Oh boy, now you're putting me on the spot.
I know your home screen is default. Derek found out your home screen is stock, but what's on your second screen? Just a couple of them.
Oh boy, I use Echophone.
Nice.
I love Echophone for Twitter, and the reason why is because it lets me sync between different devices,
Yeah.
and it's nice not having to sort of re-go and have to you tell whatever client you're using, yes, I've already seen these tweets. I've already, whatever, done with this stuff. So that's one. I love, let's see. And I don't have any of my iOS
I
devices
screwed you big
Android.
time on this segment.
You really did. You're a bastard. Rene.
Now I'm qualified for your show.
Actually, a product that a buddy of mine created that I'm very fond of is called Project Book.
Okay.
Project Book for the iPad is a great sort of project management tool, note gathering device, sort of an alternative to Evernote that doesn't incur the absurd subscription fees that you get with something like Evernote. So there's another one that I really love.
And Derek, you're the last one on the line, last one on the hook.
Well, like many others have said, I like Tweetbot. I also use Reader for Google Reader. I don't know what I'm going to do come July, but we'll figure something out.
You're going to suffer like the rest of us.
I know. I tried using Feedly, but it's just so...
What about David Smith's Feed Wrangler? That's pretty good.
I haven't gotten around to that one yet. I need something that's able to sync on everything. because I have one of everything here now.
You even have you even have prototype devices that were never released to the public. I don't know what you're going to do.
Yeah, I'm screwed when it comes to replacing Google Reader.
Derek's like an electronic version of the island of Dr. Moreau. It's all these strange hybrid creatures running around.
It's a WebOS phone, but
look,
no
there goes one
keyboard.
now.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I actually use the Gmail app instead of Mail, because I use too much of what Gmail offers feature-wise.
See, I can't do that because I also have an iCloud account and I also have an Exchange account, and I need a unified inbox. I want all my mail in one place.
I don't, so I'm okay.
I don't even understand
When it comes
you.
to my email, I'm all Google all the time, which is kind of frightening.
It's like I don't even chat room. What do you use? Do you use the Gmail app? Do you use the Mail app? Do you use Mailbox, Mail Plan? What are you people using? Mail.app, Mailbox, App Mail still, Mail.app. Derek, you're losing this battle.
That's fine.
It's
the app that I use. You don't have to use it. Screw you.
You're an angry Vulcan. All right, so
what do you use?
What do I? Oh, so I'm like Peter. I have a completely stock home screen just because I reinstalled. Well, not complete. I have all the stock apps there, but I have on my home screen, in addition to those, I have Fantastical, and I can prove it. I'm not just saying that because Michael's on the show.
Excellent choice. Excellent choice, if I say so.
I have the iMore app. I have Tweetbot, and the only app that's ever taken a spot in my dock is David Barnard's excellent Launch Center Pro, which lets me basically cheat and have a bunch of actions all stuffed into one little app that I can quickly hit and say, like, text Derek, die, 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 and it'll immediately do that.
Did you know actually that we have integration with Launch Center Pro for Fantastic?
And I use it.
Excellent. Good.
I'm not a power user. People like Seth Clifford just use the hell out of that app. I use it for several really basic things.
Sure.
And then
okay, now I have a question for the two Captain Defaults in this chat.
Go ahead.
How often do you open stocks?
Never.
What about news?
I open stocks to take screenshots of stocks when I have to write about it.
Right.
Well, of course I open Newsstand.
Me too.
Because, I've got to read the latest issue of the Loop magazine.
I was about to say, if you don't have that in your newsstand.
That is actually that's a shameless plug, obviously,
pretty.
but
so
but
you use
I
Fantastical, but you keep calendar on there.
Of course. But so Peter, before we finish, Peter with Jim Dalrymple, who has been on the show before, one of the most gracious gentleman bloggers in Canadian history, has put out the Loop magazine in newsstand. I forgot to ask you about that, Peter. How's that going?
It's going really well. We got off to a little bit of a rocky start because of some problems with the subscription mechanism. If you tried to open it on more than one iOS device, you would sort of get stuck in this endless loop.
I had that with the magazine the first day too. I think that just first day jitters.
But we sorted that out within about 48 hours, and all is good with the world now. And I just sent my copy for the second issue off. So we are moving ahead. Awesome. We're very excited about it, and it's been very well received. We've been very honored and touched by all the great stuff that people have said about it.
The renowned Verso from Tua in the chat room says that her newsstand looks the same as ours, Peter. I'm flattered.
Very nice.
Awesome.
And speaking of the Loop, Peter, thank you again. I actually wrote an article in the first issue, and I was honored that you guys asked me to do that. So thank you very much.
Well, in truth, Michael just pestered us and wore us down until we agreed to post it.
I read the article, Michael.
As per usual.
I don't get any credit.
As per usual.
There's also a great article by Matt Gemmell, Peter Cohen, Mac Gaming Sad Balkanization. I had to look up balkanization, but I'm smarter for doing it. And Michael, not surprisingly, is not fond of rules.
Yeah, Michael's piece was great. If you guys haven't read it,
thanks, Peter.
You definitely check it out.
Derek, do you have a newsstand magazine to your name?
No, I don't.
Oh, so sad, so empty.
And that's not the only one.
I don't know how to read.
He has his devices to keep.
That's true.
That's not the only one either. I subscribe to other magazines as well.
Any favorites?
Like Tap. Yeah, Tap. I love Tap. I think what Tap does, and it's not just because, I'll admit this. I initially subscribed because my stuff was in Tap and I wanted to see it, see how it looked online, but or in the magazine app. But they really get how to put together a magazine on the iPad in a way that is very different from a print product. So it's not just a slapdash Zinio style, almost PDA sort of thing. It's a really interactive experience that's totally unique to the iPad and completely sort of separate from the print product. It's very cool.
The chat
Can't say enough good things about it.
I also subscribe to Marco Armand's The Magazine, which is excellent, and I subscribe to a couple magazines that are so dreadful in terms of user experience that I can only do it because once in a while I want to read their content. But I sorely hope they take a page from your and Marco's playbook and make a digitally native version of their publications. The chat room is asking how many phones we have and how many we actually use. I have an iPhone 5. I have one of each of the previous iPhones, but that's mostly just to test legacy stuff. I have a Nexus 4. I have a Palm Pre Plus in honor of Derek. I have a BlackBerry. Actually, I have two BlackBerry Z10s right now. And I'm waiting for the Lumia 925 before I buy a Windows phone. How about you, Michael?
So I have a few devices, obviously, for doing testing of my apps. My primary device is an iPhone 5. A bunch of iPads that just, again, for testing purposes. Probably in total about 5 or 6, something like that. Not a ton. I mean, we've talked about having one of every device and doing some QA testing, but I think you're on our beta list, right, Rene? So we have a lot of beta testers and we kind of rely on them. Sure, you can have a lab and we could do it ourselves, but when there's pretty obvious problems, our testers are usually right there to tell us. And I know you've reported some good bugs.
Well, they weren't, I mean, they were the most minor of bugs, and I was actually once in a while embarrassed to have reported them to you.
Nope, all bugs count.
The chat room is asking about why Z. I have two Z10s because I bought one when they came out in Canada to help Crackberry with the launch, and then they gave them out. Everyone who attended BlackBerry Live got a Z10, sort of like how Google gives out devices. So I have a second one right now.
So he was bought. That's
well, no, I mean this one is unlocked. I actually prefer unlocked devices. The one I got originally was locked to Rogers, which is not very useful because I would never use it there. What about you, Derek? I know you have quite a lot of phones in your kimono.
Yes, I've obviously got iPhone. I have a Galaxy Nexus and a Nexus 4, Z10 for Verizon.
Z10, Derek.
Lumia 920 and an HTC 8X. I have an HP Pre 3, the Windsor Knot prototype, plus I think I've got 5 Veers. And I also have...
In all fairness, it takes 5 Veers to make one normal-sized phone.
Yes, these days it does. I also picked up the Geeks Phone Keon and Peak. These are the Firefox OS phones.
Oh, nice. Adora, thanks
Can
you.
you hold up every device that you have in one frame shot?
Let's go full screen on you, Derek. Why don't you use those for light?
Okay, well, here's one handful.
My God, they're like playing cards.
I know, really big, kind of thick playing cards. And then there are a couple more.
The chat room is giving me crap for saying Z. Look,
it's pretty ridiculous.
I'm Canadian. The Canadians and British among us say Z, and it's actually beneficial because Z doesn't rhyme with anything. If I say Z, it might be C, it might be T. It's too confusing. Z is
Z has a very Z sound to it, though, that you can't... I've never confused somebody saying Z.
What's the military? Is it Zulu? Should I be saying Zulu, Derek?
Yes.
I think that Palm should have just called, not Palm, BlackBerry should have just called it the Zen. Instead of Z10, it takes too long. Just say Zen.
Zen would have been good,
Yeah.
actually. That's a good name.
Yeah, and that saves them from when the next one comes out. Is it going to be the Z or Z11?
Yeah, it could have been the Zen too. Or I like the...
As Sakuralid says, Zed's dead.
How about Zod? They could have named it the Zod. That would have been even better.
I was just gonna say kneel before General Zed. But...
Oh, sorry, Peter.
Oh, there you go.
I guess just
I gotta put all my phones back. You made me get them.
just before we switch over to the community section, I was thinking today about cases.
Hey,
what?
hey,
Sorry.
hey. You didn't ask
Oh,
me.
Peter. Sorry. What do you have? What do you have with you? What are you packing?
iPhone 5.
Nice.
That's it.
And a victory.
Razor focused.
Yes, indeed.
I have an original generation.
Oh no, we didn't ask Peter what consoles he has around him. I'm guessing that list would go on for a while.
That list will go on for a little while. Let's see: Atari 2600, Sega Genesis, Sega Saturn, Sega Dreamcast. Yes, I'm a Sega fanboy. Sega Game Gear.
Sega Saturn?
Yeah.
Why not?
babe.
Yes, I do. Let's see. PlayStation 1, PlayStation 2, PlayStation 3, Xbox, Xbox 360.
The chat room. I have a Nintendo, Game Gear. They're joining you, Peter.
Oh, yeah. I forgot. Yeah. NES, SNES, N64, GameCube, and Wii. I haven't gotten the Wii U because why?
I thought you were going to say Super Famicom bitches at some point and just put us in our place.
There we go.
So one of the questions we get asked all the time, and especially us because we review a lot of phones and we use a lot of phones, is do we use a case or do we not use a case? I review a ton of phones, a ton of cases. Not recently because I've been busy with TM13 and I'll explain more about that later. But I don't have a case on my phone right now because I sent it to Ali Kazmuha and had it anno-styled in 4 layers of military black. So it's got a super hard coating on it, and that's working pretty well for me right now. But I have used cases in the past, and I'm wondering if you guys have any favorites or if you're likewise next to naked. We start with Peter this time.
Naked all the time.
Peter.
I bareback it. But I am particularly prone to getting Gelaskin covers for all of my devices, whether they're iDevices or Macs. I just love the stuff that Gelaskins makes. They do some fine art stuff, and they do some pop art stuff, and occasionally like comic book characters and stuff like that. They're very easy to apply, and they're micro-channeled, so you can get the bubbles out of them very easily. But I really don't like the bulk that cases introduce, so I usually don't put a case on my iPhone. It kind of ruins the feel for me.
If I'm going spelunking in the Bat Cave, I will throw a little bit of protection on it. But if I'm in normal day-to-day activity, I switch them around far too much.
I will say this: if I was going to go out and get like a hardened case right now, I'd get a LifeProof.
Yeah, the LifeProof makes good stuff. Chat room is saying OtterBox. They're asking a lot about screen protectors. Derek, how about you?
Oh, Commando all the way. Oh, you mean my phone? No cases on that either.
No cases on that either. Have you reviewed any that you liked recently?
No.
Such a hateful man. What did a case ever do to you?
Yeah. None.
We saw a bunch that were nice at CES. Casemate has gone entirely high-end. They got rid of all their low-end products, and every one of them now has like a gem inset or a wood inset. Or
They're all very nice looking. I just don't like the added bulk. I'm not one of those people who needs to see the beauty of my phone at all the times, and I find this absolutely hilarious when I see these iPhone cases with the circle cut out in the back so you can see the Apple logo on it. I don't give a what phone you're using.
Dave Blues in the chat room says that it's because you're cheap and you don't want to buy cases for all 12 of your phones.
Well, they don't make cases for most of these phones.
Oh, please, you can fit an OtterBox snap case over anything.
Hey,
Fair point, yeah.
for anybody who's
put it in one of
interested,
those
as far as
bags.
screen protectors are concerned, I am a big fan of Moshi's iVisors.
Yeah.
They're really cool because they're only adhesive on the top and the bottom, so you don't have to worry about lining it up just perfectly, or you're going to get bubbles in it or whatever. You don't need to use the back of a credit card to apply the thing. In fact, you can take it on and off as much as you want. The Moshi's iVisor is awesome.
Moshi makes a lot of really good products. I also like the bodyguard. If I'm going to do something that I know my phone's going to get messed up, the bodyguard stuff, George and I took them. We scratched them on nails, on rocks. We put them through all sorts of torture tests, and they did not get a scratch. I was very impressed. Michael,
how about you?
So I'm usually Commando as well. I don't usually like cases, but when I got the iPhone 5, because of the original concerns with, the band or the anodization rubbing off, I have a good friend who runs RadTech. Do you guys know RadTech products?
I do not.
Yeah, radtech.com. They're awesome. And anyway, they distribute other people's products as well. This is an STM, I think it's called an Opera, a Harbor, Harbour. And it's really a thin case. I originally had it on in the beginning, like, I'll just leave it on to protect the bezel and then hear what people think over time. But the case is so thin and so just out of the way that I've kept it on, and it's really nice. I used to use a screen protector for a while, but I decided with the iPhone 5 to stop using it, and I prefer the usage without it. there's a nice border around this case, so if it drops on the front, it doesn't really get scratched, and I just make sure that I keep it in a good place. And I have dropped this phone a few times just out of obvious accidental reasons, and the case is held up perfectly, and the phone's held up perfectly. So I really like this case.
Nice. I'm going to make note of that. Someone in the chat room said something snarky, but it went by so fast that I'm going to pretend I didn't see it. Oh, they asked if we'd seen iOS 7. If any of us had seen iOS 7, we would not be allowed to tell you. And if we were allowed to tell you, we probably would have written about it on the blog. That's usually the answer to that. Michael's...
It would have been a leading story, I would imagine.
It would have been yeah, look for flatter, but not flat.
Flat design, flat text.
Flat design, everything flat. So I have a couple community things I wanted to ask you guys about. And one of them is Georgia did this article for us on Candy Crush. She has become absolutely addicted to Candy Crush, and she's not the only one. Leanna Lofty, our app editor, Ali Kazmua, our how-to editor. Almost every woman I know who has an iPhone is addicted to Candy Crush. And Georgia goes through, top 10 tips on how you can, smash your way through the levels. If you haven't played it already, it's like Bejeweled, but you can use in-app purchases if you can't complete a level on your own, and you can also spam your Facebook friends to get magical powers, and I think I'm not overstating that. But Peter, this is interesting to me because I've never seen a game that had such strict gender lines for whether people liked it or abhorred it, and I'm wondering if you have any insight into why that might be.
Well, that would certainly explain why Candy Crush really didn't grab me too well. My wife plays it, but I can't say that she's heavily addicted to it. That just happens sometimes, and with casual games in particular. Some casual games, whether they're specifically targeted at women, do very well with female gamers. So I think that trying to predict that, trying to figure out what's going to hit and what isn't, is very difficult. I think in retrospect, it's easy to see, or it's easy to look at Candy Crush and say, well, it looks kind of girly, so that's why it appeals. But I don't think that that's it at all. I think that the social end of it is a big thing. I'll be honest with you, I'm kind of put off by it because the social end of it is spamming your friends on Facebook, and I quite frankly think in-app purchases just in general should die in a fire.
Yeah, Georgia has a trick to how to get extra lives without spamming your Facebook friends, but it involves cheating time. So I'll make sure the link is in the show notes, and you guys can check it out. Are you playing any good iPhone or iPad or Mac games right now, Peter?
It's funny. My big addiction right now is the same addiction that I've had for months and months and months, and it's this game that my wife introduced me to called Happy Street. Now, this is a game that actually has in-app purchases as well, but it's inoffensive to me for whatever reason. It's because it's well balanced enough that you never have to make an in-app purchase to continue to play. But it's basically a 2D city building game with cute little cartoon animals. It's fun and I enjoy it. So I've continued to play it. Let's see, what else have I played recently? Oh, Asphalt 7.
Nice.
That's a really fun driving game. And Repulse with a Z. Another driving game. The mechanics of it are a little bit different. So there's some slalom action where you have to get gates in the right order. And in the upgrades that they've introduced since the game was first released, they've also introduced combat and stuff like that. It's futuristic. It's a little bit Wipeout-ish. Lots of fun there too.
Michael, any addictions? I mean, I was playing letterpress until Derek kept beating me so badly I wanted my mama. So I'm slowing down on that. But what are you into now?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not. It's funny. I used to be such a huge gamer, and then, I don't know, in the last 5-10 years, I just kind of bailed out. I mean, I do the Angry Birds thing every now and then, and I like Zenbound. I don't know if you guys remember that game. But no, I'm not really that heavy into games. Letterpress was awesome, and I definitely played it a while. And then I think it just got to a point where, it was becoming a habit. Like, I'm just playing letterpress just to play letterpress. Like, I realized that it wasn't.
Lauren Brichter has enough money.
Certainly not that at all. But no, Lauren's a great guy. But it just, to me, was something that I think, I don't know, maybe it's because I do productivity apps, but there comes a point when I realize that I'm doing something and it's just kind of an automatism. I kind of say, okay, I should probably put that off and see if I want to come back to it, So Games, though, I mean, I definitely have a ton of games on my iPhone. I was kind of looking because I knew you were going to ask me this question.
Cheating.
Yep, I'm cheating. I have a ton of really good games.
Just pick one.
You know what's
one
a
or
fun
two.
game? This is kind of like a game that I used to play with my son. We haven't played in a while, but Icon Factory has a great game called Pickin' Time.
Yep.
And they have an iPhone, iPad version. It's really fun. You just basically, it's a multiplayer game, and you basically have to pick the same vegetables. Really, really cute and well
I love
done.
all
If
their
you're
games. I
interested
loved
in
Ramp Champ.
more
I
fun
loved
games.
Astronaut. All their
Exactly.
stuff was great.
Astronaut. Yep, exactly. I got all those, and those are all really fun
I was
games.
playing Hundreds, Adam Saltzman's Hundreds game, and that was I think we all played that during CES, and then at Macworld, and I forget the name. I don't even remember. It's that game where it's 2-player and you talk to each other and you have to fix things on your starship before it explodes. Space something. I'll try to remember. Anyone in the chat room remembers?
Yes.
Yeah, that's a horrible, horrible game that is entirely too much fun for its horrible, horrible game nature. Space Team. Thank you, Judy Kite. That was fantastic.
That's it.
Derek, I know you don't play games
There's some good
because
games.
you're a Vulcan, but if you did play, if your human side ever did win out, what would it be?
I don't like fun. Yeah, honestly, I haven't been gaming that much recently at all, which kind of makes me sad, but nothing's really caught my eye recently since I burned out on Angry Birds Star Wars.
I get so many Game Center challenges, it makes me actually not want to play. I don't know how Apple needs to fix that.
Yes,
Yeah.
Apple's got to fix that. Oh, God, I hate notifications in Game Center.
And you can't turn them off because then the people you're actually playing with can't get through to you.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. I recently picked up Nova 3, which I've been picking my way through about once a week. Pick it up and play for about 10 minutes until I die.
Hey, Microsoft won't make Halo. Why not?
Yeah, what the heck? Why not? And it's pretty well made for being one of those big studio games. It's very straightforward and nothing innovative about it, but it's still entertaining.
Reading my mind because I was just about to say hi, Judy, and she said hi to me. So hi, Judy.
Hi, Judy.
Michael, did you bring an entourage on the show?
If it's one person, then yes, I bring an entourage on the show.
All right, I'm going to pivot us
person's
again. I meant to mention this earlier, but I got lost in the fun. Peter did this awesome article on how to get more life into your dying Mac Pro, and I have one of the original Nehalem Mac Pros, and it's on the lower end. It's a 2.22, but there's 8 cores, and I think my Retina MacBook Pro just renders circles around it now. Before I go to Peter, Michael, I'm just curious, are you a Mac Pro user? Do you have any faith left in that product line?
You know, it's really funny. I used to always have the Pro line, and then as the laptops, the MacBooks got more powerful. I travel a lot, and obviously with my advisory and different businesses, I'm on the road a lot, right? So mobility is very important to me. And the power of the mobility became good enough that, sure, the Mac Pros, I mean, maybe not now, but the Mac Pros still had more power, but it wasn't that important to me. It didn't matter as much as the mobility, and the mobility power was good enough that I could deal and use every day. So to kind of answer your question, Apple has to do something with a more pro machine because there's developers who want to compile faster or have apps that they're trying that need more performance, apps, whatever. They have to do something in the pro space. But right now, I think the power on the laptops have become so powerful that the gap was bridged to a point where Apple just doesn't see it being a problem. So they've kind of just been puttering along.
Is that your some Neil Douglas in the chat room is saying that he's seen them converted into charcoal grills, and I wouldn't go that far. But Peter, you had a lot of good tips.
Thank you. Yeah, some of them I've actually eaten my own dog food on that as well. The one thing that I'm waiting to do is to put in an SSD and then Fusion Drive.
Yeah.
My Mac Pro, but a lot of the other stuff like putting in a stock PC video card. And boosting up the RAM and stuff like that, really easy to do.
On the Mac Pro is that it hasn't had a modernization, right? It's just been kind of incremental. And if they were to even just take a Mac Pro and make it like, hey, we're going to put SSD in, or maybe even Fusion Drive, and we're going to just, just even give it
Thunderbolt,
like the most modern things, like Thunderbolt, exactly. Like just modernize it. It would be a huge thing. But I don't know. I mean, it makes you wonder if they're going to get rid of it or if they're just going to have a major upgrade.
Well, here's
And,
the problem.
I mean, no one knows.
This is the problem in a nutshell. They've been held back by the architecture that the Mac Pro is based around. The fact is that Apple's entire product line has moved to Ivy Bridge. But in terms of Ivy Bridge in a server-type workstation environment, Apple hasn't done that yet. So if I understand Intel's roadmap right, there's going to be a release this fall, Ivy Bridge E, that would make a lot of sense for that. And I think that's when we're going to see a Mac Pro. And this would track with an email that Tim Cook sent to an incensed Mac user that you may remember some traction for in various Mac blogs last June after WWDC came and they introduced a very slightly refreshed Mac Pro that had a processor bump but very little else. And he said, look for something late next year for our Pro users. So whether or not that means a new Mac Pro or just a new Pro level machine that's going to replace the Mac Pro or whatever, I don't know. But the Mac Pro, it's a difficult situation right now. You can't even buy one in Europe anymore because the thing doesn't pass muster with EU laws for power.
Yeah.
So,
and I don't want a Mac Mini Pro. I mean, there's all these rumors that Apple is gonna be making a Mac in the U.S. It's gonna probably be a small yield one, and Tim Cook supposedly said it's the new SKU in his testimony. And I just hope it's not a Mac Mini Pro because the Mini replaced the Xserve, and I kind of don't want it to replace the Pro as well.
By the way, Ricker in the chat room mentioned the Cube, so I got to bust this out.
Hold on.
I think when I worked at Apple, I got a Cube shell. It's just the shell, but it's my Cube.
What do you keep in there?
It's memorabilia. It's like broken dream.
You could put You could do a Mac Mini Colo inside that case.
Yes.
You could. I could put like 4 Mac. I think let's see, 1, 2. It would hold a ton of Mac Minis.
On Mac Break Weekly, Leo tried out that the SSD drive with the SSD is actually on a board that goes in one of the slots, and that was lightning fast. And it's expensive, but I mean, if you really want to if you want to Syracuse out your Mac Pro before Apple does, that's probably something to look at. And I'll put a link to that in the show notes.
Interesting.
All right, so questions, chat room. Do you have any questions for us? I know it was going by at a rapid pace, and some of you have put some of them in there already. But if you have any questions for us, go ahead and get those done. In the meantime, I'm going to go around the table and just ask everyone for their WWDC predictions because we're less than 2 weeks away, and it's a fast-moving target. But, Michael, I'll start with you. What do you want to see at Dub?
Well, I'm predicting ticket sales are going to sell out. I'm predicting that they're just going to run out
No,
of tickets.
predictions,
That's
not hindsight.
Oh, that happened?
Yes.
Really?
Yeah, maybe you heard about it. It was blogged.
My deadpan's not working. Oh, well. All right, on to a new shtick. Let's see. So iOS 7 and OS 10 updates for sure. Any dissenters there? Okay, excellent. Some new hardware. My guess is going to be a MacBook Air Retina, something like that. And these are all guesses, just people. Like, if I knew something, I wouldn't be saying any of this stuff. I'd just be like, yeah, I don't know. Next. There'll be a teaser from Flexibits around that time.
Awesome. I'm lining up for that keynote.
That's a prediction I'll stand by. Thank you. And I'll go with something random. I think an iPhone update. I think iPhone 5S.
Nice. Derek?
I don't think iPhone 5S at Dub. I can see an Apple TV update.
Hardware or software?
Maybe both.
Okay.
Likely software, probably not hardware.
What do you think about opening the platform up to developers finally to make apps for it?
God, that needs to happen.
So
right, but what do you think? I
Is
could
it
see
going
that
to
happening
happen?
in this WWDC. Maybe.
I'm 50-50 on that.
right.
Now, obviously, we're going to see iOS 7 and OS 10 updates.
let me ask you this. Would you be happy with something along the lines of channel partnerships where Apple just opens it up, but it's a much more constrained environment than the phone, and it's mostly geared towards entertainment properties and things that make sense on a 10-foot display?
I'd be okay with that, too. I'd be okay with anything other than just, boom, hey, you have Hulu Plus now. Oh, cool, thanks.
I don't have Hulu Plus. I'm in Canada, damn it.
I don't have Hulu Plus. I'm in America because I don't want to pay for it.
What about you, Peter?
I think new mobile hardware for sure. My bet is that we're going to see new laptops based around the Haswell microprocessor from Intel, which will introduce some great new features like lower power consumption, better battery life. Faster integrated graphics, which would be a big plus across the board, including even for Retina display equipped Macs. Because Rene, I know that this is a constant pet peeve of yours. The HD 4000 just cannot keep up with all those massive pixels on the Retina displays of the current MacBook Pros. Whether or not we'll see any more Retina display models, like a Retina display MacBook Air, I'm not so sure.
My understanding for a couple of these things is we won't see any more mobile hardware till the fall. We will get probably laptop upgrades, like Peter said, for Haswell. I don't think we'll get the MacBook Air for the same reason we haven't gotten the Retina Mini yet, just because you need battery, and there's just not enough casing to push enough battery in there to power the Retina display and all the power requirements that come with it. But Apple is good at figuring these things out, so maybe. Other than that, iOS 7, there was a question in the chat room about what's going to happen after iOS 10.9, after OS 10, 10.9. 10.10. As far as I know, it's being tested already. So Apple is not shy about taking it to 10.10.
Yeah, they're not decimal points. They're just...
They got to take it to 10.11.
Yes.
Whoa.
And then get Christopher Guest up on stage to introduce it.
Exactly.
Liam Green wants to know if we think there might be maps in Siri on the Mac. Peter, you're a Mac-centric kind of guy.
Maps on the Mac, really? What's the point? Don't you need maps to find your way when you're actually going somewhere?
If someone shares location with you, though, they need either a web front end or a Mac front end for you to pull them up.
Right, okay. Siri, I think it's just a matter of time.
Yeah.
I think you're more talking, though, location services than maps.
Yes.
In other words, so mapping obviously is a big component of location services, but maybe what the benefit on a Mac would be is that, with Fantastical, you could say, hey, I'm in the office, so make a meeting here, and then it'll pull up your location services. I mean, some of those are basically available now, but improved location services I could see.
I know a lot of people want a Siri API, but there's a lot of stuff. Siri, and there's an episode of Debug where Grant Paul, one of the really good jailbreak guys who dove deeply into Siri, explains it, but it's still bundled in there with Springboard. It's not its own module yet, and there's no real way for it to resolve conflicts yet. Apple would have to build all that out, so it would have to know to go to Fantastical instead of your calendar or something else. There's a lot of chances for collision right now, so I think that's still going to take a while.
And by the way, someone in the chat room, Joshua, had said about more sharing features in Message. How about iMessage? How about just getting messages to work? Period.
Yes.
I mean, messages. Messages boggles me that how bad it is, because everyone at Apple uses it. I hope. It's really bad. It loses chats. I'm sure you've had to shut down the IM agent to actually get your chats.
And they're not in chronological order.
Timestamps are off. It loses messages. It's really, really, really bad.
No, I agree with that.
Yeah, I'd like to see Apple dump messages altogether and replace it with BBM.
You went BBM. I thought you were going to go Hangouts, Peter, but you went BBM.
What happened to Apple open sourcing messages as well?
It wasn't going to open source messages. They were going to open source FaceTime, and they got sued by a patent troll, and they've just lost the
wasn't
appeal.
There still something with the protocol for messages that they were going to open?
Maybe. I'm not sure. I know Google Hangouts is working in Jabber on the Mac for me, and that's very exciting.
Yeah.
That's very exciting, actually. That could be an alternative.
It is, except it doesn't handle groups yet, so I hope they fix that.
You know what I really want Apple to do with iOS? I want them to decouple the apps from the OS.
The way Google does?
If they need to do something like push an update for messages, it's just an app update instead of having to update iOS to fix an app.
I would like that too.
That's a good point. And actually, it does. It seems like they almost don't update the apps because, we'd have to push out a whole OS update. So
exactly. So we have to wait until iOS 7 for something to get.
The main
less
reason for that, though, is
majorly
that a lot
broken.
of the apps rely on the OS, so a lot of those bugs are tied into frameworks.
Yeah.
I would like that core audio framework to be fixed so when I plug headphones in, mail.app doesn't start ringing over and over and over and over again in my ear.
Yep.
I'd like that fixed.
Oh,
Does anyone have the bug on their Mac, by the way, where you plug in headphones and mail just starts going crazy?
That's it. That's exactly the one I'm complaining about.
Yep.
Okay, what's up? Wait, so I have a question. I think I've tracked it down to something. Do you have an app called Boom?
I do not.
All right, because I have Boom, and for some reason I always thought it was related to that. So
Nope.
good, it's not.
No,
So
that's
everyone
not
has
good.
this
That means
problem.
you have no clue what
Good.
it is again.
Yes, again, exactly.
Bong Bong is asking, how would you decouple the app from the OS? Well, you would basically ship an iPhone with those apps pre-installed, and then they could still be updated over the App Store. And Google does
Right.
this. I think BlackBerry 10 does this. I don't know if Windows Phone does it, but they're...
I don't think Windows Phone does that.
Well, like in the chat room, someone was saying, Sakurallet again was saying that iWorks already like that decoupled. You download iWorks separately. So Apple could still ship the OS with those apps
Yeah.
installed, and then they just
Yeah.
show up as software updates in
and
the
for
App
the
Store.
stuff that's dependent on the OS, you can still have all of the API backends as part of the OS that are needed to support, say, everything that goes into Calendar. But if you need to update something in Calendar that doesn't have anything to do with those, you're going to push
Although
an update to the app.
iWorks update history, as Peter has written, has been not spectacular as of late.
Yeah.
No, it hasn't been. And Liam and Jason, just so you know, yeah, sure, you could uninstall it, but Apple could force you not to be able to remove it if they wanted to keep that. It's not a must just because you can install updates.
All right, guys, I would actually literally love to keep talking with you for the next hour, but I know you have busy, hectic lives to get back to. So I'm just going to ask you to tell us a little bit about yourself, and I'm going to let you go. And we'll start off with our wonderful guest, the handsome and talented Michael Simmons. Michael, where can they find out more about you and more about Fantastico?
Well, my website's flexibits.com, FLEXIBITS.com. On Twitter, I'm Mac Guitar, MACGUITAR. And I'm trying to get a blog going because apparently everyone wants me to have a blog, but I have to do it when the time is right. I don't want to just put up a blog because I've been
No,
asked to
since
put up
Jerry
a
went
blog.
back to Apple, there's a void in the market.
All right, well, I'll see what I can do, but it has to be organic.
All right, Derek Kessler, how about you?
You can find me on Twitter at DKDSGN, on app.net as Kessler. You can find me all over Mobile Nations, iMore, Android Central, Crackberry. On rare occasion, I'll go over and rant at the guys at Windows Phone Central. And you'll be able to see me working on the whole TM13 stuff coming up. Rene will tell you more about that.
Hold on one second. Daniel's trying to call in already, so I'm just going to tell Daniel to hang on a second. Let me find him. And this is what we do when we do live video, guys. All right. And Peter Cohen, sir, how about you?
Well, of course, you can find me at iMore and on Twitter at Flarg. That's FLARGH. I also write for loopinsight.com, and my podcast is at angrymacbastards.com.
Or as I call it, Angry Mock Bastards. Just sounds angrier that way.
That was good.
That does, yes.
That was good.
All right, guys, thank you so much. Chat room, thank you so much. You're spectacular. If you haven't already, please head over to iTunes. Please subscribe to the show. Please leave a review. We're starting fresh, so we could really use your support. We will be here again next week, and then we have something really special planned for you for WWDC, and I'll tell you all about that next week. Have a great time, guys, and thanks, everybody. We'll see you next time.
Thanks, Renee.
Bye.
Bye.